Hey, what's up, nerds? Third time's the charm. General's Handbook 2324. Everything is leaked, readily available out there on the internet. I am not subject to an NDA, nor is anybody that I know of that would have leaked this. This is just out there on the interwebs. Nobody sent me this, other than somebody just sending me a link to, hey, this thing is out there. So far, I really like this. This is my third time attempting to do this stream, and Jesus Christ, nothing else had better happen to interrupt it. So let's get to it. I already kind of went through the first page a couple of times, so I'm just going to go run through this really quickly. Your wizard heroes with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less and are not unique are an Andorian Locus. That is going to just be referenced all over the place in this battle pack and is pretty important to everything. At the start of each battle round, before priority is determined, player taking the second turn in the battle round can either attempt to cast and unbind an additional spell with an Andorian Locus, or you can pick a different hero and you get one extra command point that only that hero can use to issue commands that turn. Not too complicated. Also really powerful. Extra command points is always good. And if you're running an army that has a bunch of wizards, you certainly can, I'm brain farting. It's been a day. If you have heroes that are not wizards in an army with wizards, you can still just choose to get the command point instead with the guy that is not a Locus. I'm just going to be calling them Locus or Loci because it's a hell of a lot easier to say. Primal Magic. In each hero phase, both players roll a die. If they roll a 4 up, they receive 1 Primal Magic die, which they can basically add into one of their casting, unbinding, or dispelling rolls. These are going to empty out at the end of each battle round. So you're potentially getting 2 of these each turn. And 4 up is 50-50 odds, kind of random though. So I think some more competitive players are probably not going to like this too much. But it's effectively letting you cast on 3d6. If you happen to have more than one of these Primal Magic die, you can do 4d6, or you can spread it over 2 casts. There's a bunch of text in here about what you do with rerolls and other modifiers and crap. If you use one of the Primal Magic die and you miscast, you take D3 plus 3 mortal wounds instead of the normal D3, and every other unit around them within 3 inches also suffers D3 mortal wounds. And then if you roll boxcars on the cast, it goes off. It can't be unbound, but the caster can't attempt to cast any more spells that turn, and both players receive an additional Primal Magic die. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. This looks cool and fun. These are just the basic rules. Getting into enhancements, we have Nullstone Adornments. These are enhancements that can go on non-wizards. They can only be taken if you have no wizards in your army or abilities on war scrolls that allow a wizard to, or actually any ability at all in your list that lets a unit cast a spell in the same manner as a wizard. So this is just an extra thing, just like we had the enhancements for Galatian champions in the last battle pack. Hand-carved Nullstone, they can just attempt to cast or dispel a spell this turn. And that's in each of your hero phases. And next one, Pouch of Null Dust. Once per battle, you can say that you're going to use their Patch of Null Dust. Till the end of that phase, unmodified casting rolls that include a double 1, 2, or 3 are treated as miscasts, or primal magic dice. If primal magic dice were rolled, then it's a primal miscast, which is the D3 plus 3 jazz. And for each, in addition, roll a die for each endless spell on the battlefield. For every 5+, that endless spell is dispelled. So you can just like nuke the endless spells on the battlefield, maybe 5+. I mean, not great. And this whole thing is once per battle, so I don't know. That one's not too exciting to me, although it could be fun to just do on like one dude. Last one, Polished Nullstone Pebble. When the unit is picked to be the target of a spell or ability from an endless spell, you roll a die and a 4-up. The caster has to pick another unit within 3 inches and within range of the spell to be the target. If picking another unit, there are no other units within 3 inches. Ignore the effect, and that spell or effect, this basically does nothing. So on a 4-up, you can basically bodyguard spell effects and endless spell effects. So I think the hand-carved nullstone is super good out of this. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. And yeah, and if you're not running any wizards, certainly, I think that's probably the one you take. So, up next, Realm Sphere Magic. So your Andorian loci in your army can take one of these spells instead of one from any other spell lore. Hoarfrost has a casting value 8, range 12. You pick a friendly unit within range. One of their melee weapon profiles, you roll a d3 on it. You change the hit, wound, or rend characteristic to the roll of the d3. That can be pretty powerful. That could definitely be pretty powerful. You can do some hilarious things with that. Rupture, casting value of 10, range 18. Pick a predatory spell or incarnate within range, and the target immediately becomes wild and cannot be picked to be controlled or bonded for the rest of the battle. Situational. It's going to probably depend on how many endless spells we think are going to be around as to how useful you think that's going to be. Merciless Blizzard has a casting value of 12, but as we already saw, with those primal dice, that's certainly possible. Range of 12, pick an enemy unit within range and visible to the caster. That unit suffers 4d6 mortal wounds, but for each roll of 1, the caster also suffers d3 mortal wounds that cannot be negated. Range cannot be modified, and smell must be measured from the caster, even if an ability would allow it to be measured from elsewhere, so you cannot spell portal this thing. But, still good. Like 4d6 is a lot of damage. So, I mean, your average on that is going to be 14. That's just going to nuke units. There's plenty of ways that you can get up to 12 fairly easily. Can only be on an Andorian locus, but doing this with a wizard in Slaves to Darkness, for example, you use draw on power, you're already rolling on 3d6, so your average is 10.5. So, get a bonus somewhere, or like from arcane terrain, or whatever, or just use a primal die and add it in. You have a lot going on. It's going to be really powerful. Personally, I think you're going to see this spell a lot. Like 46 is just a crazy amount of damage, and casting on a 12 is surprisingly not unrealistic. So this can only go on your loci, though. This can't go on any unique heroes or anything, or any units. Command traits. If your general is a locus, you can pick one of these instead of your normal ones. Shaman of the Chilled Lands. General knows all of the spells from the previous spell lore that we just looked at. Eye of the Blizzard, in starting your hero phase, your general on the battlefield, you can gain 1 primal magic die on a 5-up. That one's pretty solid. I like that. It's only in the start of your hero phase, though, so you're probably only going to succeed on that once or twice per game. Is it worth it? I mean, there's some armies that like don't have very good command traits, so it certainly might be. Shield to the bone once per battle. If this general miscasts or primal miscasts, you can roll a die on a 3+. This general can ignore the effects of the miscast. Yeah, if you want a little security blanket, that's cool. Eater of Magic. Each time this general successfully unbinds a spell, roll a die, and a 5-up, the caster no longer knows that spell and may not cast it again for the rest of the game. That's pretty strong. So, yeah, I mean, if you somehow have a wizard that you can throw this on that has several casts, or several unbinds, rather, that could be pretty powerful. Certainly going to do absolutely nothing if your enemy doesn't have any wizards, but hey, I think we're really slanting a lot towards that being pretty common. All right, our core battalions, the Andorian Acolytes. It's 3 3 heroes with 10 wounds or less. At the start of the hero phase, if 2 of them are loci, and they're both of them still on the battlefield, roll a die. On a 3-up, you gain 1 primal magic die. This has to be 3 heroes. So, I mean, this is certainly going to be pretty powerful. The 3-up is, and it's the hero phase, not your hero phase. So this can, I think this is going to see a lot of play. Like, this is just, 3 foot heroes is not a lot. It also specifically has to be foot heroes. They can't have a mount. All right. And the Wizard Finders, this unit, if this unit's picked to fight, you can say that it is going on a wizard hunt, gonna catch a big one. If you do so, pick 1 melee weapon profile from the unit's war scroll at the end of that phase. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of those melee weapons. But all of the attacks from that unit have to be made to target an enemy wizard, and wizards cannot be included in this battalion. This is interesting. There are a lot of big things that just happen to be wizards, right? Like your greater demons, except for the Khorne ones, Be'lakor, Archaon, whole bunch of stuff all down the line. So I think this is going to be pretty common. Actually, I don't know how common it's going to be. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be cool and fun. Going to be dependent on what we see for wizards around, though. But both of these are certainly a strong incentive to not just take Battle Regiment, which I always really like. I'm going to skip over the grand strategies and battle tactics, but I will just say these are not too easy. I think these are going to be a challenge. So it's going to make this pretty interesting. I'm also going to skip the endless spells. Basically, most of these are the same. Cogs has changed again. If you increase the flow of time, you get to reroll charges. If you decrease the flow of time, where did it go? One of your heroes can cast Arcane Bolt or Mystic Shield as if they were a wizard, if they're wholly within 6 of this thing. And then you subtract 1 from hit rolls for shooting attacks that target wizard heroes while they're wholly within 6 inches of it. So, yeah, I mean, Cog's pretty good, as always. And it's only casting on a 6. Other things, I didn't really see too many other significant changes in here. A lot of these are either exactly the same or really close. Soul Snare Shackles is, I'm not sure if this has changed or not, but it's it really, like, it's removing D6 from the enemy move characteristics, which is real strong. So let's get to the Burning Head. Basically, it attaches to a unit, and every at the end of every movement phase, you roll a die on a 2-up. It suffers D3 mortal wounds, and it's there for the rest of the game until it's unbound. So that's pretty funny. I like that. It's just going to slowly whittle a unit down. But let's get to the fun stuff, the stuff that we're really all here for, the battle plans, the stuff that we're really going to worry about. And boy, these things are fun. They're cool. Grabbing a quick drink here, and let's get moving on through this and see what's going on. These are like totally out of order, but that's fine. Power Flux, deployments 9 inches from enemy territory. We have a pretty standard, 2 on the border of territories, 1 that in the middle of each territory arrangement for our objectives. We got Ether Surges. Each player can only score victory points for objectives they control if the objective has been activated at the start of each battle round. After determining which player will take the first turn, the player taking the second turn will choose which pair of objectives, either A or B, so the 2 in wholly in territories or the 2 in border territories, which ones are going to be activated. So we're going to be changing potentially every battle round which objectives are going to be turned on or off. I think that's really interesting. Scoring 1 if you control 1 if you control both. 1 additional 1 for each activated objective you control that's contested by a locus that has no enemy loci in it. You score 1 victory point if any enemy wizard units were destroyed in the battle round. That's pretty good. Bonus points are always fun. So if you're running a bunch of wizards in your army, no, this is also not heroes, so sorry, Lumineth. This is going to be a rough day for you. But yeah, this is it's going to be interesting. I like this a lot. I'm going to be saying that a lot. Geomantic Pulse. Deployment wholly within territory, 4 objectives across the middle. At the start of the second battle round, after determining which player has the first turn, the player going second picks objective A or B. So that's the ones all the way to the side. And that is going to be the pulse for that battle round. And at the start of each subsequent battle round, the objection moves to the adjacent pulse that has not been a pulse in a previous turn. So if you start on A, it moves left to right. If you start on B, it moves right to left, moving each battle round. So the scoring then is where this gets funky. All of these are on all of the time. You just get bonuses depending on controlling the pulse. So you get 1 victory point for controlling an objective, 2 victory points if you control the pulse objective, which is going to be changing every turn. And there isn't one there in the first battle round. That is also important to note. 1 victory point for each objective adjacent to the pulse that you control. So if in the second battle round, we're starting on that one's the pulse. You get 2 victory points if you control that, and you get 2 more victory points if you control the pulse and the one to the right of it. So this is going to be really interesting. The battle is going to basically be kind of shifting side to side throughout the game, and you're going to need a lot of battlefield control and position to make this happen. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 1 point per an adjacent objective. So, but once you get to the third and fourth battle rounds, there's going to be 2 objectives on the battlefield that are adjacent to pulses. So you can get 2 bonus points for that. So your max score in that turn is going to be 5 points for objectives plus 2 for battle tactics. So total of 7. Very cool. Nexus Collapse. Weird corner deployment and objectives all over the place. Okay. You deploy more than 9 inches from enemy territory, as is pretty standard in deployments like this. Instability. At the start of each battle round, after determining which player goes first, the player with the fewest victory points can choose to collapse up to 2 objectives. So it's not the player going second. It is the player that is currently losing. And if you're tied, you roll off, and the winner can collapse 1 objective instead of 2. Roll a die for each unit within 6 inches of any collapsed objectives, and they're going to be collapsed for the rest of the game. So we're just kind of opening up pits. On a 4-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you pull these things off, and then it's going to start damaging the units around it. Like, not only are they not holding an objective anymore, now they're taking damage. So that's interesting. And it's also like a catch-up mechanic, which is cool. All right. Once all the rolls are made for those units, remove the collapsed objectives from the battlefield. Oh, I'm sorry. It's only going to do that on that one turn. So it's not going to just have a battlefield riddled with this. It's going to collapse and then be removed. And you can't score points on that for the rest of the game. Standard 1-2 more scoring on this. But, disappearing objectives is going to be interesting. And I think the arrangement of objectives for this is interesting. I like it. Lines of communication, 3 objectives in the middle. At the start of each battle round, the player taking the second turn can pick a phase to disrupt. During that battle round, each time a model in the opponent's army issues a command in that phase, their opponent must roll a die. On a 3-up, an additional command point must be spent in order to issue that command. What? So this is like nerfing command points in general. But it's pick a phase for that battle round. But anytime you issue a command, your opponent is rolling a die, and on a 3-up, you either have to spend a second command point, or the command point just goes away and you get no effect. Again, standard 1-2 more scoring. Not too exciting on that front, but I mean, as you can tell so far, these are cool. I like it. Every step is forward. Zigzaggy sort of deployment. Deploy more than 9 inches from enemy territory, as is pretty standard once again. All right. Give no ground. If a unit makes a charge move until the end of the turn, add 1 to the number of models that each model in that unit counts for the purpose of contesting objectives. If a unit retreats until the end of that turn, the models in that unit cannot contest objectives at all. So you get bonuses for contesting when you charge, and you count as nothing when you retreat. And then just 1-2 more scoring. I really love how these things are thematic. Like, this one is just always be charging. Last one is, the commands are kind of not a thing. And on and on and on. I really like what's going on here. Limited resources. Another interesting arrangement of objectives. I like how they're kind of going outside of the box with objective placement in this. 9 inches from enemy territory as always. Siphon Meltwater. This may be my favorite battle plan out of this GHB. So, when a player gains control of an objective, they start to siphon the meltwater from it. After scoring a victory point, if the player whose turn it is controlling an objective, all right. My mind does not want to just read this for some reason. Basically, if you control an objective for 2 turns in a row, it gets removed from the battlefield. And we got, 1-2 more scoring, which is pretty standard. But you can't just camp objectives because the objectives are going to disappear because you're siphoning the meltwater off of them and then you run out. If you get on an objective, abandon that objective, and then on a subsequent turn come back, then it won't go away. It's not contesting it twice in the game. It is 2 consecutive of your turns. Very cool. I love this. This is, again, I love that all of these are flavorful and thematic. Like, there's a resource in the ground that the objective is representing, and you are pulling that resource out. But if you pull it out too fast, it runs out and you got to move on. Very cool. Like, they're really finally tapping into these things, having some meaningful narrative elements to them. And like the objectives in this one in particular, like, this isn't just an arbitrary point on the ground. These are objective markers representing some sort of thematic thing. And, the way you're playing with it matches that theme nicely. Spring the Trap is the next one. Kind of centralized deployment, and you're deploying more than 9 inches from enemy territory, and you can outflank. Each player, after you're fully deployed, can remove D3 units from the battlefield. You just roll 1d3 for both players, so this isn't like one player is randomly going to get an advantage on that. Place those units in reserve, starting from the second battle round. At the end of your movement phase, you can set it up on the battlefield, wholly within 6 inches of the edge, and more than 9 inches from enemy units. This is going to be really interesting because this is kind of giving an ambush to armies that ordinarily wouldn't have it. So if you have like weird charge bonuses on stuff, this could end up being really powerful. If stuff is +2 to charge, this suddenly becomes fairly easy. And scoring is just your standard 1-2 more. All right, need another sip of beverage. Because doing this and just talking for a long time absolutely kills my throat. All right, up next, Fountains of Frost. Divided sort of deployment, just straight across. Your locus units count as 10 models for purposes of contesting objectives in this battle plan. At the start of each battle shock phase, roll a die for each objective that is contested by 3 or more units. On a 4-up, each unit contesting that objective suffers D3 mortal wounds. You roll separately for each unit. Now, got to point out here, this is not contest and control. This is contest. So this is all units that are within 6 inches of an objective. If there are 3 or more units that you have contesting on an objective, each of them is taking D3 mortal wounds on a 4-up. So this is creating this weird kind of push and pull on objectives where you want to try and get your guys onto objectives to capture them, obviously, But if you're doing that with multiple units, you're disincentivized from doing that. So it's interesting. I like it. And then once again, 1-2 more scoring. And next is the ice fields. Again, this one has really cool thematic rules. You're in a field of ice. The ground is slippery, so look out. Look what happens. Each time a unit rolls, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. When you make a charge roll for a unit, for each die that shows a 1 before modifiers, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. This is good. I'm not gonna lie, this is good. And then the scoring is just 1-2 more, but this is like, it's incentivizing you to either slow down or you are going to be taking damage. The unfortunate thing is the deployment of this. So we're not going to be seeing this like at GTs very often unless they're ones that have really spread out tables, which is unfortunate because I think this is a really cool design. I like this a lot. Again, for people that aren't really that familiar with narrative play, that ice-encrusted domain rule, that's like a narrative play rule. What the hell am I doing here? Okay. Up next, the Frigid Zephyr. Once again, corner deployment 9 inches away. Again, cool narrative rules here. At the start of the battlefield is affected by a squall. So you're sitting in a blizzard, basically. So no units can see any other units that are more than 12 inches away from them. So it's blocking line of sight in excess of 12 inches. And while the squall is there, you can't fly. At the start of each battle round, after the first, the player that will take the first turn, because it doesn't really matter here what player does it, you roll a die, you add 1 to, or you add to the score a number equal to the current battle round. On a 7+, the squall dissipates, and you continue on with a normal game. So you are definitely going to have this in the first battle round. And in the second battle round, you have like, you would have to roll a 5 or a 6 on a D6. So you have like a 1 in 3 chance. And then it's going to go up with each successive battle round. This is going to punish the hell out of certain armies, and I think this is going to be interesting and cool. Sorry you can't see me when you're more than 12 inches away. So armies that rely on long distance shooting or longer distance magic, sorry kids, just not going to work. And then for plenty of armies out there, this is not going to do anything. Sons of Bahamut, they're looking at this, they're like, okay, sounds good. All right, no reward without risk, another corner deployment, and I like the objective setup here once again. And as always, players have to set up more than 9 inches from enemy territory. Actually, this doesn't say 9 inches. Each player must set up their units wholly within their territory. Yeah, and the territories border each other. This is going to need an errata, because that's got to be like supposed to say 9 inches, like obviously. 1-2 more scoring. Anyway, special rule for this one, feedback overload. When a wizard is slain before removing that model from play, roll a die. On a 4-up, the wizard explodes. And each unit within another number of inches equal to the wound characteristic of that wizard suffers D3 mortal wounds. Roll separately for each unit. So that means that when your, say, Great Unclean One bites it, you're hitting like the whole table. Well, might on a 4-up, 50-50 shot. I mean, Archaon, he's going to blast a 25-inch radius around him. That's basically the whole table. I mean, that's hilarious and fun and thematic. So, you know, this is fun. Very cool. And the interesting thing here, too, is when the wizard explodes, he's doing damage to your opponent and to you. So if you like YOLO a wizard into your opponent to try to get killed, they could end up being a little bomb, which is kind of cool. I'm like immediately thinking things like Slave to Darkness, Kabbalists having just like an exalted hero of chaos, like just charge in, do some damage, and then die and take a bunch of crap out with him. Seems super fun. Towers in the Tundra. So deploy more than 9 inches from enemy territory, as always. The attacker and defender each pick a terrain feature that is defensible in their territory. And that's going to be the Wizard Tower. This does not tell you where that thing's got to be. So that's going to be really interesting. Again, I mean, with this, I think this one is just not going to end up in GT packs because of that weird wild card element. Unless they're one of those GTs that are like, oh, we're going to set up the terrain the same way for every table. And for, you know, Towers in the Tundra, we're going to tell you which thing, well, like which terrain pieces have to be the Wizard Towers. Anyway. Victory points. One for controlling one objective, another one for controlling both of the regular objectives, 2 victory points for a battle tactic. So that's all pretty standard. And then each player scores victory points at the end of the battle as follows. You score 2 victory points if friendly units are garrisoning the Wizard Tower in your territory. If your starting army did not include any units that could garrison a terrain feature, you score 2 victory points if you control the Wizard Tower that is in your territory. Then you also score 2 points if there are no units garrisoning the Wizard Tower in enemy territory. Now, important here to note, that's saying nobody at all. So if you're in there, you don't get these 2 victory points. So don't garrison your opponent's Wizard Tower. So again, cool, thematic. I like it. You're trying to, you know, have your wizards up in towers and doing stuff, and your opponent is trying to do the same, and you're trying to, you know, clear out your enemy tower. Very cool. All right, so that is all 12 of the battle plans in this battle pack. We've gone through everything, and, you know, my impression of this after going through it a few times, this feels very narrative and thematic, right? Like this one, Power Flux, like the energies on the battlefield are fluctuating, and you can only go to the one that's charged up right now. Geomantic Pulse, the power is pulsing across the battlefield. Nexus Collapse, like things are collapsing, making holes in the ground. Lines of communication, your lines are disrupted and messages, commands can't get through. Every step is forward, just always be charging. Limited resources, siphoning the melt water, very cool. I like that a lot. Spring the Trap. This one's going to be really interesting. Just letting everybody have some ambushing, which is pretty cool. Fountains of Frost. What are we doing here? There you get bonus points, or you can't contest objectives if you have too much stuff on them. And they get hit with the geyser. So cool there. Ice fields, battlefield's covered in ice, and if you run or you charge, you will take damage. Frigid Zephyr, you're fighting in a blizzard. I really love the amount of thematic narrative elements that are in all of this, and all of this really goes to like the narrative of this battle pack. Like, this whole thing seems like this battle pack should just be in a narrative supplement, right? Like, that's what these things scream to me. This is part of why I'm looking at this and I'm like, I think a lot of the more competitive players aren't going to be too hot on this, because like there's some weird things in here. We have unusual objective placement. We have like weird moving and random things on the battlefield. You have the wizard tower thing. I don't think you're ever going to see that one at GT. Is that going to be super fun to play with your friends? Hell yeah, it is. That's going to be awesome. So, I love this. This is going to be cool. And the other thing that I definitely want to point out is that there's not a lot of focus on your wizards in these battle plans. It's just not going to come up a lot. Where it's going to come up more is in your list building, obviously, if you're going to use the acolytes or the wizard finders. And then the grand strategies and battle tactics are going to have some stuff that are related to that as well. But it is also not specifically calling out the loci in these battle tactics. It's just calling out like wizards and magic related stuff. So some of these are going to be real hard, or like this is going to be hard for armies that don't have wizards or are not running wizards in their list, because several of these have to do with wizards. And a couple of them are going to be like real easy if you have a good wizard. And all of these in general just kind of feel like they're hard. Intimidate the invaders seems like it's pretty easy. Reprisal, like you can only score this battle tactic if your general was already killed in this battle round or in this battle. So you have to get your general killed, and then you have to kill the unit that killed your general. That's going to be hard. That's definitely going to be hard. Let's see. Magical dominance, that's going to be pretty easy if you're running a couple of wizards in your list. Magical mayhem, that's just going to be funny. You pick an enemy unit on the battlefield, and if that unit's destroyed by a spell or endless spell, you score the battle tactic. Yeah, I mean, these are cool. They're fun. I think the battle tactics, there's going to be a lot that are challenging. So in terms of competitive match play, I think there's going to be a lot of favor leaning into those armies that have like easy battle tactics. Like, these grand strategies are not too easy either. Control the Nexus. You have to have 2 wizards wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield at the end of the battle. Spellcasting Savant is if you have a locus that is your general and they survive the whole battle, then you score it. I mean, that's going to be a challenge. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are no wizard units on the battlefield. So, I mean, obviously that means you're going to have to start with no wizards in your own army to make that more reliable. And then you have to kill all enemy wizards. So, I mean, that's going to be kind of swingy. But this is also like an auto win if you end up in that match where your opponent doesn't have any wizards in their list. It's like, oh, top of the first battle round. All right, I score my grand strategy. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really fun season, I think. I'm excited about this. I think this is cool. Yeah, man, I'm pumped for this season. As always, feel free to leave your comments and questions and all that jazz. Third time apparently was the charm on this one. So I rocked all this out, going through all of this, and we're only a few days away from the actual proper preview videos going out for this stuff. But haha, I win. I got it first because I am a dirty cheater and don't mind working off of leaks. So that's it. I'm loving it. This is going to be fun. I'll talk to all you guys later.